Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of his ship as it moved slowly through space. The stars looked different here, far from Earth. Some were bigger and brighter than the sun back home. Others were strange colors he had never seen before. His ship, the USS Horizon, was not very big compared to the huge military ships he had seen in movies. It was built for exploring, not for fighting. Jake had been flying in space for 15 years, but this was his first trip so far from home. The Earth government had sent him and his crew to look for new planets and resources. They wanted to know what was out here in the dark between the stars. Jake was excited about the mission, but he was also nervous. No human had ever been this far from Earth before. "Captain, we're getting close to the asteroid field," said Danny Rodriguez from his seat at the navigation controls. Danny was young, maybe 25 years old, with dark hair and quick hands that moved over the buttons and screens like he was playing music. He had grown up on Mars and knew how to fly ships better than most people twice his age. "Good," Jake replied. "Lisa, are the mining tools ready?" Lisa Park looked up from her computer screen. She was the ship's engineer, a short woman with black hair tied back in a ponytail. Her hands were always dirty from working on the ship's machines, but she could fix anything. "The laser is working fine, Captain. We can start cutting rocks whenever you want." Amy Collins, the communication officer, turned around in her chair. She had red hair and green eyes, and she always seemed to be listening to something no one else could hear. "Still no signals from other ships, Captain?" "It's quiet out here," Jake nodded. That was good. They didn't want to meet anyone else until they were ready. The asteroid field ahead of them looked like a wall of rocks floating in space. Some of the rocks were as big as buildings. Others were small like cars. The plan was simple. They would use their mining laser to cut up some of the smaller rocks and see what metals were inside them. If they found something valuable, they would take samples back to Earth. "Take us in slow, Danny," Jake said. "We don't want to hit anything." The USS Horizon moved forward into the asteroid field. Jake watched the rocks float past the windows. Some of them spun slowly as they moved. Others bumped into each other with soft sounds that came through the ship's metal walls. It was beautiful in a strange way, like being inside a slow-motion explosion that would never end. "There's a good one," Lisa said, pointing at a rock about the size of a house. "It looks like it has iron in it, maybe some other metals too." "Lock the laser on it," Jake ordered. Lisa's fingers moved over her controls. A red light appeared on the rock, marking where the laser would cut. "Ready, Captain." "Fire." A bright blue beam shot out from the front of the ship. It hit the rock and began cutting through it like a hot knife through butter. Pieces of rock floated away, glowing red from the heat. In less than a minute, the rock was cut in half. The inside sparkled with veins of metal. "Nice work," Jake said. "Collect some samples and we'll move to the next one." But Amy suddenly sat up straight in her chair. Her face went white. "Captain, I'm getting signals, lots of them, coming fast." Jake felt his stomach drop. "From where?" "All around us," Amy said, her voice shaking. "They just appeared. I don't know how I missed them before." Danny looked at his screens and cursed. "Captain, we have company. Big company." Jake looked out the window and his mouth fell open. Ships were appearing around them like magic. Not human ships. These ships looked like they were made of silver and glass, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. They were much bigger than the USS Horizon, and there were dozens of them. They formed a circle around the human ship, blocking every escape route. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Jake asked Amy. Amy put her hand to her ear, listening to her equipment. "Yes, Captain. They're sending a message. It's in a language I don't understand, but the computer is working on it." "How long until we have a translation?" "Maybe 5 minutes." Jake looked at the alien ships again. They weren't shooting, which was good, but they weren't moving away either. The USS Horizon was trapped in the middle of them like a mouse surrounded by cats. "Lisa, can we outrun them?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "Not a chance, Captain. Our engines are built for long trips, not speed. Those ships look like they could catch us easy." "What about fighting?" "With what?" Lisa laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "We have one mining laser and some basic shields. Those ships probably have weapons that could turn us into dust before we could blink. Jake took a deep breath. He had trained for situations like this, but he had never thought it would actually happen. Meeting aliens was supposed to be exciting, not terrifying. "Captain," Amy said suddenly, "I have the translation. Put it on the speakers." A voice filled the ship. It sounded like it came from a machine with no emotion or feeling, but the words were clear English. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Preservation Code 7 Alpha. You have brought a planet-killer weapon into protected space. Shut down all systems and prepare for boarding." Jake stared at Amy. "Planet-killer weapon? What are they talking about?" "I don't know, Captain," Amy replied. "Maybe they mean our laser." "That little mining laser," Lisa said. "It can barely cut through a rock. How is that a planet-killer weapon?" The alien voice spoke again. "Human vessel, you have 30 seconds to comply. If you do not shut down your systems, we will disable them for you." Jake's mind raced. They couldn't fight these ships, and they couldn't run away. But if they shut down their systems, they would be helpless. The aliens could do whatever they wanted. "Captain," Danny said quietly, "what do we do?" Jake looked at his crew. Amy was scared but trying to hide it. Lisa looked angry, like she wanted to fight even though she knew they couldn't win. Danny was waiting for orders, ready to do whatever Jake told him to do. "We shut down," Jake said finally. "We don't have a choice." "But Captain," Lisa started to say. "No arguments," Jake said, firmly. "We're explorers, not fighters. Maybe this is all a misunderstanding. Maybe we can talk to them and work this out." Amy's voice was quiet. "And if we can't?" Jake didn't answer. He didn't want to think about what would happen if they couldn't convince the aliens that they weren't dangerous. But as he watched the silver ships move closer to the USS Horizon, he had a feeling that their simple exploration mission had just become something much more complicated. The USS Horizon floated powerless in space. Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair, watching the alien ships through the window. One of the silver vessels had moved very close to his ship. It was so big that it blocked out the stars behind. Its strange lights moved along its surface like living things. "They're connecting something to our ship," Lisa Park said, looking at her dead computer screens. "I can feel vibrations in the walls." Amy Collins held her communication equipment in her hands. It was one of the few things still working since they had shut down the main power. "Captain, I'm getting a new message." "What do they want now?" Jake asked. "They're telling us to get ready for transport. They want to take us somewhere." Danny Rodriguez looked nervous. His hands kept moving toward the flight controls, but there was nothing he could do without power. "Captain, I don't like this. What if they want to hurt us?" Before Jake could answer, a bright light filled the ship. Jake felt strange, like he was floating and falling at the same time. The walls of his ship seemed to fade away, and then everything went white. When Jake could see again, he was standing in a huge room. The ceiling was so high he couldn't see the top of it. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal, but they glowed with soft blue light. His crew stood next to him, looking around with wide eyes. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said a voice behind them. Jake turned around and saw the strangest creature he had ever seen. It was tall like a human, but its skin was silver and seemed to shine in the light. It had 4 arms instead of 2, and its eyes were large and completely black. When it walked, it made no sound. "I am Counselor Thrain," the creature said. "You are here to face judgment for bringing a weapon of mass destruction into our space." "We don't have any weapons," Jake said. "We're just explorers." Counselor Thrain made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was cold and unfriendly. "Your ship carries equipment that can destroy planets. We have seen what your species does to worlds. You dig holes in them, you take their resources, you change their surfaces. This is destruction." "That's just mining," Lisa said. "Every species needs resources to survive. Not like humans do," said another voice. Jake looked around and saw more aliens entering the room. Some looked like giant insects with too many legs. Others were covered in fur and had long tails. One looked like it was made of living rock. Jake realized he was looking at creatures from many different worlds. "This is the Galactic Council," Counselor Thrain explained. We represent 12 species that have lived in peace for thousands of years. We protect planets from destruction. Your species threatens this peace. A creature that looked like a walking tree stepped forward. Its voice sounded like wind blowing through leaves. We have studied your Earth. We have seen your history. You have wars. You pollute your air and water. You cut down forests and empty your oceans. Now you want to do the same thing to other worlds. That's not true, Jake said, but he knew some of it was. Humans had made mistakes on Earth. They had fought wars and damaged their planet, but they were learning to do better. Show them the evidence, said a creature with blue skin and 3 eyes. The crystal walls around them suddenly showed pictures. Jake saw Earth from space, but not the way it looked in pretty photographs. This showed the scars that humans had made, strip mines that looked like wounds in the ground, cities that covered huge areas of land, smoke rising from factories. Then the pictures changed. Jake saw video of human mining ships working on asteroids. The ships used powerful lasers to cut through rock, just like the USS Horizon had been doing. But seeing it from the outside, Jake understood why the aliens were scared. The human ships destroyed asteroids completely, turning solid rock into floating debris in minutes. This is what you call exploration, Counselor Thrain said. We call it destruction. Amy stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but steady. We're not trying to destroy anything. We need metals and minerals to build things, to make our ships and our cities and our tools. There are other ways, said the tree-like creature. Our species have learned to take what we need without destroying. We use harmony technology. We ask the planets for what we need and they give it to us slowly over many years. But that would take forever, Danny said. Time is not important, replied the creature. Preservation is important. Life is important. Your species acts like you. Own every planet you find. Jake felt anger growing in his chest. These aliens were judging all of humanity based on their worst moments. They didn't understand that humans were trying to be better. You don't know us, he said. Yes, we've made mistakes, but we're learning. We're trying to do better. Are you? Asked a new voice. Jake turned and saw a human woman walking toward them. She had short brown hair and wore a blue uniform he didn't recognize. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. I'm Kira Thorne, she said. I'm a diplomat. Earth sent me here when they heard about your situation. How did you get here? So fast? Jake asked. I was already in this part of space working on trade agreements, Kira explained. I'm here to speak for you in your trial. Trial? Lisa said. What trial? Counselor Thrain's black eyes seemed to get even darker. The Galactic Council will decide if your species is too dangerous to be allowed in space. If we find that you are a threat, we will quarantine your solar system. No human ship will ever leave Earth again. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. You can't do that. Humanity has the right to explore space. Rights are earned, said the blue-skinned alien. They are not given freely. Your species must prove it deserves to be part of galactic civilization. Kira put her hand on Jake's shoulder. Don't worry, Captain. I've been studying galactic law for 5 years. I know how to argue our case. But Jake could see worry in her eyes. She wasn't as confident as she sounded. The crystal walls showed new pictures now. These showed other species and how they explored space. Their ships moved slowly and carefully. When they needed resources from a planet, they used gentle methods that took years to extract small amounts of material. They built cities that looked like they grew naturally from the ground instead of being carved out of it. This is how civilized species behave, Counselor Thrain said. They work with planets, not against them. Jake watched the pictures and felt confused. The alien methods looked beautiful and peaceful, but they also looked incredibly slow. At that rate, it would take humans thousands of years to build the things they needed. How could they explore the galaxy or help other worlds if they moved that slowly? The trial will begin tomorrow, Counselor Thrain announced. You will have one chance to prove that humanity deserves to exist among the stars. If you fail, your species will be confined to Earth forever. As the aliens left the room, Jake and his crew stood alone with Kira. The walls still showed pictures of the peaceful alien civilizations, their slow and gentle ways of doing things. "Can we win this?" Jake asked Kira. Kira looked at the pictures on the walls. Her expression was serious. "I don't know, Captain. They're not wrong about some things. Humans do things differently than other species. The question is whether different means wrong." Jake thought about his ship, still floating powerless in space. He thought about Earth, with all its problems, and all its people trying to make things better. He thought about the future, and whether humans would ever see the stars again. The trial would decide everything. Jake Morrison stood in the center of the huge crystal room. The Galactic Council sat in a circle around him and his crew. Each alien looked different and strange, but they all watched the humans with the same cold stare. Jake felt like a mouse, surrounded by cats. Kira Thorne stood next to him, holding a tablet with notes about galactic law. She had worked all night to prepare their defense, but Jake could see she was worried. The evidence against humanity was strong. "The trial begins now," announced Counselor Thrain. "The humans will have one chance to prove their species deserves to exist in space." A wall of the room lit up with pictures of Earth. But these weren't the beautiful photos Jake remembered from school. These showed strip mines, polluted rivers, and dead forests. They showed nuclear explosions and cities covered in smog. "This
is what humans do to their own planet," said the blue-skinned alien with 3 eyes. "They destroy without thinking. They take everything and leave nothing behind." More pictures appeared. These showed human space missions from the past 100
years. Mining ships cutting apart asteroids, plans to terraform Mars by changing its atmosphere, proposals to build huge factories in space. "Look at their methods," said the tree-like creature. "They use force and violence to get what they want. Their mining laser can cut through solid rock in seconds. Our gentle methods take years to extract the same materials." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew the aliens were right about some things. Humans did work fast and sometimes messy, but that didn't make them evil. Kira stepped forward. "Council members, humanity acknowledges its mistakes, but we also learn from them. Our mining methods are efficient because we need to be. Our species grows quickly and needs resources to survive." "Survival does not justify destruction," replied a creature that looked like a giant insect. "Many species have learned to live within their means. But at what cost?" Jake said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Your methods are slow. How do you help people who are dying right now? How do you build hospitals or schools or ships to rescue people in danger?" The council members looked at each other. Several made sounds that might have been disapproval. "Your question shows the problem with human thinking," Counselor Thrain said. "You always want everything immediately. You cannot wait. You cannot be patient." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "Maybe because we don't live for thousands of years like some of you do. Human life is short. We have to work fast because we don't have forever." "That is exactly why you are dangerous," said the insect-like alien. "You rush toward everything without thinking about consequences." The trial continued for hours. The council showed more evidence of human destruction. They talked about wars and pollution and all the mistakes humanity had made. Kira tried to defend each point, but Jake could see she was losing. Then something unexpected happened. Amy Collins, who had been quiet the whole time, suddenly stood up. Her communication equipment in her hands was beeping loudly. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking, "I'm getting an emergency signal." "From where?" Jake asked. "I don't know. It's not human, but it's definitely a distress call." Counselor Thrain made a gesture with one of his 4 arms. "Sit down, human. This trial is not finished." But Amy kept listening to her equipment. "Captain, someone is under attack. Ships are being destroyed. They're asking for help." The crystal wall suddenly lit up with new pictures. They showed a battle happening in space, not far from where they were. Strange black ships with sharp edges were attacking a convoy of peaceful vessels. The peaceful ships looked like they belonged to one of the council species. "Those are void corsairs," said the tree-like creature, and for the first time, Jake heard fear in its voice. They are pirates. They attack our shipping routes. Why aren't you helping them? Lisa asked. Our ships are not built for combat, replied the blue-skinned alien. We have called for our security fleet, but they are far away. Those merchant ships will be destroyed before help arrives. Jake looked at the battle playing out on the walls. The pirate ships were fast and deadly. The merchant ships were trying to run, but they were too slow. As he watched, one of the peaceful ships exploded in a ball of fire. How far away is that battle? Jake asked Amy. Amy checked her equipment. About 10 minutes at full speed, Captain. Jake turned to Counselor Thrain. Give us back our ship. What? The alien said. You want to see what humans really are? Give us back our ship and let us help those people. Your ship is a weapon of mass destruction, Counselor Thrain said. We cannot. Those people are dying right now, Jake interrupted. Your security ships won't get there in time. We can. The human ship cannot fight void corsairs, said the insect-like alien. It is not a warship. Maybe not, Jake said. But it's what we have. The council members talked among themselves in languages Jake couldn't understand. The battle on the walls was getting worse. More merchant ships were being destroyed. Finally, Counselor Thrain spoke. If we allow this and you fail, the trial continues. If you succeed but use your weapons to destroy the pirates, we will consider this proof that humans are too violent for space. And if we succeed without destroying them? Kira asked. Then perhaps we will reconsider our judgment of your species. Jake looked at his crew. Danny was nodding, ready to fly anywhere Jake ordered. Lisa was already thinking about the ship's systems, planning how to use them in a fight. Amy was still monitoring the distress signals, her face pale with worry for the people under attack. We'll do it, Jake said. Minutes later, Jake and his crew were back on the USS Horizon. The alien ships had restored power to their vessel and moved away, giving them room to fly. But Jake knew they were still watching, ready to stop the human ship if it tried to run. Danny, get us to those coordinates as fast as we can go, Jake ordered. Yes, sir, Danny replied, his hands flying over the controls. The USS Horizon shot forward through space. It wasn't a fast ship compared to military vessels, but it was faster than the alien merchant ships. As they got closer to the battle, Jake could see the situation was even worse than it had looked on the Council's screens. 5 pirate ships, Amy reported. They've already destroyed 3 merchants. 2 more are badly damaged. Lisa, what do we have to work with? Jake asked. Lisa studied her screens. 1 mining laser, basic shields, and the fusion drive. Not much for a fight, Captain. Then we'll have to be creative, Jake said. Danny, take us in fast. Lisa, can you use the mining laser as a weapon? I can try, but it's not designed for moving targets. As the USS Horizon entered the battle zone, the pirate ships turned toward them. These were not like the beautiful alien vessels Jake had seen before. The pirate ships were black and covered with spikes and sharp edges. They looked like they were built for one purpose: destruction. Incoming fire, Amy called out. The ship shook as enemy weapons hit their shields. Jake gripped his chair as sparks flew from damaged systems. Return fire, Jake ordered. Lisa aimed the mining laser at the nearest pirate ship and fired. The blue beam hit the black vessel and cut through its armor like paper. But instead of destroying the ship, Lisa aimed for its weapons, cutting them off cleanly. 1 pirate ship disabled, she reported. Good work. Keep doing that. But the other pirates were learning. They spread out, making it harder for the mining laser to hit them. The USS Horizon was taking more damage. Captain, Danny said, I have an idea. What if we use the fusion drive exhaust as a weapon? Jake smiled. Do it. Danny spun the ship around and fired the main engines directly at a pirate vessel. The superheated exhaust from the fusion drive hit the black ship like a hammer, sending it spinning away out of control. The battle was turning. Using tools never meant for fighting, the human crew was slowly defeating the pirates. And they were doing it without killing anyone, just disabling the enemy ships one by one. When the last pirate ship was floating helpless in space, Jake opened a communication channel to the rescued merchants. This is Captain Morrison of the USS Horizon. Are you all right? We are safe, thanks to you, came the reply. But we do not understand. How did an exploration ship defeat the Void Corsairs? Jake looked at his crew and smiled. We improvised. Jake Morrison stood once again in the crystal room of the Galactic Council, but this time felt different. The alien council members were no longer looking at him with cold disapproval. Some seemed confused. Others appeared thoughtful. A few even looked impressed. The walls of the room showed recordings of the battle they had just fought. Jake watched himself and his crew defeat the Void Corsairs using nothing but mining equipment and clever thinking. It felt strange to see it from the outside. The human ship disabled 5 pirate vessels without destroying a single one, said the tree-like creature. Its voice still sounded like wind through leaves, but now there was something like wonder in it. Our security forces have been trying to stop the Void Corsairs for decades. They always escaped or fought to the death, but you captured them alive. Counselor Thrain stepped forward. His forearms moved in what might have been a gesture of respect. We have interrogated the pirate leader. He says something interesting. He says the reason his attacks on council ships were always successful was because we are predictable. We always use the same tactics, the same technology, the same peaceful methods. But humans are different, added the blue-skinned alien with 3 eyes. You do things we do not expect. You turn mining tools into weapons. You use engine exhaust as a shield. You think in ways we cannot predict. Jake wasn't sure if this was good or bad news. Is that a problem? We thought it was, said the insect-like creature. We believed that unpredictable meant dangerous, but perhaps we were wrong. Kira Thorne stepped beside Jake. She looked relieved, but still cautious. What does this mean for humanity's future in space? The council members talked among themselves in their various languages. Jake heard clicking sounds, musical tones, and what sounded like electronic beeping. The conversation went on for several minutes. Finally, Counselor Thrain spoke. The Galactic Council has made a decision. We will not quarantine humanity to Earth. Jake felt his knees go weak with relief. Lisa grabbed Danny's arm and squeezed it. Amy smiled for the first time in days. But, Counselor Thrain continued, we also cannot allow humans to explore space without restrictions. Your methods are still too destructive for unrestricted travel. Jake's relief turned to worry. What kind of restrictions? We propose something that has never been tried before, said the tree-like creature. We offer humanity a new role in galactic civilization. You would become guardian custodians. What does that mean? Kira asked. The walls lit up with a map of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems were marked with different colors. Most were green, showing peaceful council worlds. But some were red, marking dangerous areas. There are regions of space that council species cannot safely explore, explained the blue-skinned alien. Places where pirates hide. Systems where ancient machines still function and attack any ship that enters. Worlds where dangerous creatures live. We avoid these places because our peaceful nature makes us vulnerable. But humans are not peaceful, said the insect-like creature. You are adaptable, creative. You can handle dangers that would destroy us. We propose that humans take responsibility for these dangerous regions. Jake studied the map. The red zones covered huge areas of space. You want us to be your soldiers? Not soldiers, Counselor Thrain corrected. Guardians. You would explore the dangerous places. Deal with threats that we cannot handle. Protect council worlds from pirates and other dangers. In return, you would have the right to mine resources and establish colonies in those regions. It's a big responsibility, Kira said quietly. Yes, agreed the tree-like creature, but it is also a great opportunity. The dangerous regions contain some of the richest mineral deposits in the galaxy, worlds that could support human colonies, resources that could power human civilization for thousands of years. Jake looked at his crew. They had come out here to explore and find resources for Earth. Now they were being offered more than they had ever dreamed of. But they were also being asked to become the galaxy's problem solvers. What about our mining methods? Lisa asked. You still think they're too destructive? In council space, yes, said Counselor Thrain. But in the dangerous regions, speed and efficiency might be more important than perfect preservation. If you are fighting pirates or ancient war machines, you cannot take years to carefully extract resources. There's something else, added the insect-like creature. The pirate leader told us something disturbing. The Void Corsairs are not the only threat out there. There are reports of something called the Machine Collective, ancient artificial intelligence that has been dormant for thousands of years. Our sensors suggest it may be waking up. The map on the wall changed, showing a dark region at the edge of the galaxy. Even the red danger zones looked safer compared to this black area. If the Machine Collective fully awakens, it could threaten all organic life in the galaxy, said the blue-skinned alien. Our peaceful methods would be useless against machines programmed for war. But humans, with your adaptability and creative destruction, might have a chance. Jake felt the weight of what they were asking. Humanity would become the galaxy's guardians, the ones who faced the dangers that others couldn't handle. It was both an honor and a burden. Can we have time to think about this? Jake asked. Of course, said Counselor Thrain. But not too much time. The Machine Collective grows stronger each day it remains active, and the pirates become bolder as they realize Council forces cannot stop them. How long do we have? Kira asked. 1 Earth month, replied the tree-like creature. Then we will need your answer. As the council session ended, Jake and his crew found themselves back on the USS Horizon. The ship had been repaired and refueled. All the alien vessels that had surrounded them before were gone, except for one small ship that would escort them back toward Earth. So what do you think, Captain? Danny asked as they sat in the ship's small meeting room. Jake looked out the window at the stars. It's not what we expected when we left Earth. But it's an amazing opportunity, Amy said. We could explore parts of the galaxy that no one has ever seen. We could build human colonies on new worlds. And we'd be helping people, Lisa added, protecting them from pirates and other threats. That's important work. It's also dangerous. Work, Kira pointed out. We'd be going into places where other species are afraid to go. We could face threats we can't even imagine. Jake nodded. She was right. But he also knew that humans had always been explorers. They had crossed oceans and climbed mountains and traveled to other planets because they wanted to see what was out there. This was just the next step. I think we should do it, Jake said finally. Not just because it's good for humanity, but because it's the right thing to do. If we can help protect innocent people from pirates and ancient machines, shouldn't we try? His crew looked at each other and smiled. They had come to space as explorers and miners. Now they were going home as the galaxy's newest guardians. As the USS Horizon turned toward Earth, Jake began planning what he would tell the government and the people back home. Humanity had found its place among the stars. It wasn't the place they had expected, but it was the place they were needed. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of wonders they had never imagined. And now it was their responsibility to protect it. 3 weeks later, Jake received new orders from Earth Command. The human government had accepted the Council's proposal. A new fleet of ships was being built, designed specifically for the challenges they would face. Jake would command the first Guardian mission to investigate reports of machine collective activity near the Andromeda approach. As he prepared for humanity's next great adventure, Jake smiled. The aliens had been right about one thing. Humans were unpredictable, and sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed.